Hello, give me a 5x5. Sorry, I'm like a minute late. I literally just walked back through the door. So if I sound okay, let me know. Straighten this out a little bit here. Let's see who all we have in the chat. We got Robin Prater. How are you doing? Lisa Baker, the prepping artist. Michael Holzman, thank you all for the 5x5s. David G. Hey, there you are. Where have you been, David G? Talked about you a couple times. How's things with the move? Hope everything's going good. Outlaw Farms. Oh, I'm a little off right now because, things always happen. 5 o'clock this morning, we get a phone call. The old lady's mom had to go to hospital, so I was just running back and forth doing that. But anyway, I digress. Let's start talking about different things. John over at Prepper Nation. Thank you. Oh, there you are. What's up? Local warlord. You are becoming, if anyone hasn't noticed over the past few months, John is becoming a warlord. His mentality is shifting. He's becoming more aggressive, more of a, I'm not doing this bullshit anymore type of attitude. And it's awesome. As my drill instructor said a long time ago, look at my little cupcakes rising in the oven. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Outlaw Farms. Also, Dynamite. I don't know if he's, yeah, there he is. Dynamite's in here. Dynamite, his old lady, is now making these cool little custom handbags for the ladies. So if you want to check out the Prepper Nation Telegram page, or I don't know if he's put it onto the Prepper Nation Facebook page, but check those things out. If you get a chance, handmade, made by someone in the community. So there you go. They're pretty cool. Got all different kinds of sayings on them. The type of sayings we like. I think I don't know if she's making an FJB one, but that would be pretty cool. Let's see, Warlord. You nailed my name. Most people don't even say it right. For the my Warlord for the upcoming battles. Yes. There's a lot going on in the community, and I apologize. Let me apologize first off for not being on here as frequently, or even as often, slightly as I should be for you guys. But the past month and a half, I've just been hammering in the oil field trying to get things going. And something a lot of people don't realize is, even though there's, the prices are still up at the pump and there's all these oil shortages and things like that, the work has been greatly reduced. So everybody is scrambling in the oil field to get what work they can, because it's just not there. It's just not that the oil industry in this country has slowed down dramatically since 2020. So there's that. But one of the topics that I got a little book that I write as things pop in my head while I'm out there in the middle of the beautiful mountains of West Virginia and Pennsylvania in the oil fields. I write down things I'd like to talk to you about, things that some people don't. One of the topics today I'd like to talk about is war with China. A lot of us see it coming. A lot of people don't. I don't think a lot of people understand how that would actually benefit us. And let me mute this real quick. Turn this phone on to do not disturb for you guys. Do not disturb. A lot of people don't understand. And if you look at history, and you hear the talk now, Allied and Axis powers, the Axis. They're dividing the global powers that be. And the ones that are forming up, oddly enough, the people, a lot of the countries that we're calling Axis powers were Allied powers during the last World War, the last couple, actually. So that should send up red flags for you. If a lot of people who were our allies during the last two world wars are now being called Axis powers, then what are the Allied people? Are the Allied people now what the Axis used to be and represent? Well, actually, if you look at it, take a good, honest look at it, yes. If you look at the values that the old Axis powers had, that is currently the U.S. values, the European values, Canadian values. Those are pretty much the same. The roles have reversed. It's almost like Operation Paperclip, which most of you should know about, worked so well that our government became that government that used to exist in World War II. But I digress. How would war with China actually benefit the U.S.? And why do our politicians seem to be pushing that agenda? Well, have you seen how much debt the U.S. has with China? Trillions and trillions. Have you seen how much land is owned in the U.S. by China? How many factories, how many businesses are owned by China? Well, during World War II, when the Japanese did that thing out in Pearl Harbor, what did we do? We rounded up all the Japanese in this country. We took their land, we took their homes, we took their businesses, we took everything. And not very many of them ever got any of that shit back. So war with China would allow the U.S. government to wipe the slate clean. Think about it. If we owed $20 trillion to China, and we automatically, in 2 years, declared war on China, what do you think happens to that debt? It's legitimately gone. All right. If we just today said, you know what, we're defaulting on our debt with China, we're not paying them $20 trillion. Oh, it would be very bad for the global economy and our economy, because people would be like, oh, they can't pay their debts. There's a difference between can't pay your debts and not paying debts to an enemy of your country. See? So they could wipe that slate clean, and all the land, agricultural land, businesses in the U.S. confiscated by the state because they belong to an enemy nation. That would put us sitting pretty good. Let me see what's going on in the chat here real quick. Dragon Day movie. I've never seen that. I'll write that down. Dragon Day. Pardon me for 1 second. Day movie. I'll take a look at that. They're Outlaw Farms. Proper Nation, excellent point. Thank you. These are just some of the things I think about. And the system, though, and you got to understand, our government automatically assumes, and the bad guys always do, they assume they're going to win. Our government thinks they're going to win. But as someone was saying in Prepper Nation this morning, that the brick system is backed by gold and oil and things like that, whereas our fiat currency is backed by the full faith and credit and trust of the U.S. government. Well, I would prefer gold, silver, oil, fucking lead in comparison to the full faith of the U.S. government. That's just me. So they are building a much stronger system. There have already been deals in place with Riyadh, the Saudis, and the Chinese government to start trading oil for yuan. They're accepting now, I think it was Nigeria, is going to start using their own currency to purchase oil as opposed to the U.S. dollar. All of these, and people will say, well, there's just a small country here, or outside of China, big country. Nigeria is just small. Yeah, but if you have enough dominoes fall, bad shit's going to happen. If you can see the writings on the wall. So they're stacking up. The brick system has the potential to be devastating to the U.S. economy, which again, we go back to stacking silver and gold, because yes, you can't eat silver and gold. You can't eat bullets either. We stack them, as John said, frequently. But like I said, you can use gold. If tomorrow the dollar collapsed, you could take a $20 gold piece and you could buy yuan, you could buy pesos, you could exchange it for euros, you could exchange it for anything, even though the US dollars collapsed. Now you take the same amount of money in US dollars and it collapsed, tomorrow it's toilet paper. It's green toilet paper. But bullets will feed you. Yes, Outlaw Farms, bullets will feed you. And we'll get into that here shortly too. True. However, China knows this. That's what's got us by the cojones. Yes and no. And that's why we get back to going healed. That's why I find it amusing when some people say, China would never nuke us because they want our resources. No, they don't. Before the United States existed, before the Americas, China got along fine with a massive population. And if their population grows too big to be fed, they have no problem just wiping out a large portion of their population. They've done it multiple times throughout history. So when people say, "Oh, China would never nuke the U.S.," why? Get rid of the threat, get rid of it. It's gone, done. It's over with. So what? Besides, nukes aren't as devastating as people think. EMP will do it. Yes, an EMP would definitely, that'd be the best way to go if you wanted to salvage the U.S. But if you wanted to salvage the agricultural land, come in and conquer it later on in the future, after all the warlords grouped up and had their own little territories, kind of like Afghanistan is today, which, since we're on that path right there, we just brought that up. Again, people talking about, I think it was yesterday over at Prepper Nation, John, they were talking about could the U.S. government, could militias stand up to the U.S. government? Well, they did a pretty good damn job in Afghanistan. Just gonna, if I had a mic right now, I'd drop it. But, yeah. What will it take to get our country back? To get this country back on track? You have to, and when I say you, I mean you, like Outlaw Farms, Michigan Outpost. Hey, long time no see. Robert Winslow. I can go through this. Everyone on this list, including this guy, have to start standing up fiercely for your moral beliefs. All right. That's what the Taliban did. The Taliban said, "You're not putting transgender studies in our fucking schools," which we were doing. We were putting shit like that into the schools in Afghanistan. Gender studies programs. They said, "No, we will bomb the shit out of you. We will put IEDs on the road. We will send suicide bombers to your checkpoints, to your police stations. Whoever you put in charge, the Taliban was ungovernable." That's what ungovernable means. When you're willing to, the only way to be, if you are ungovernable, that means you are an outlaw, an enemy of the state. So, and you don't have to take it to the Weather Underground extreme where you're blowing up police stations. By the way, this is all theoretical, fictitious, disclaimer, so we don't get pulled from YouTube. I'm offline. Am I back? It literally just flashed across my screen. You are offline. Can you hear me? Let me know. Do I still have a live stream? Okay. Yeah, it literally flashed and read across my screen. You are offline. And there we go. You think that just happened? My Wi-Fi is fine. You think that just happened? No, it was some algorithm or moderator for the tube sitting there going, "Oh, hell no, he's not talking about this shit." Yes, the Weather Underground. Look what they did in this country. And they affected Barack Obama. All right. He was a fan and friends with people from the Weather Underground. They did. Yeah, you know what they did. If you don't know what they did, Google Weather Underground. Okay. In the United States, they made things go boom and affected change to the point where they got a president installed. But you don't have to take it to that level. But stop turning a blind eye. Again, we'll say, if you see something, say something. If you see somebody, if I walk in to the sheets and the fella behind the counter is dressed in drag, and he says, "All right, you have a good day," and hands me my stuff, and I say, "You too, sir," and don't feed into their fantasy. All right. And if they say something, "I'm a man," not according to your testicles, and just walk out and just walk away. See something, say something. What's Dynamite saying? If you are scared to be on a list, don't be here. Here's the thing. You don't have, and when people don't want to subscribe, like to Prepper Nation, to this channel, to whatever other channels that are out there, but you're watching, you're already on the list. They know, all right, your codes in your computer are linked. They know what you're watching. Even if you don't subscribe, you're on that list. So it doesn't matter if you subscribe or not to them. You're already part of the problem. All right. So let's get that straight. But yeah, be ungovernable. The Weather Underground, the Taliban have shown us that David can fight Goliath and win. You can. I hear people the other day, I know what show it was, I'm not going to say, but they were talking about, well, what happens when they show up at your door, when they start, you'll have nothing and like it. And they show up at your door and say, well, we need your land, or are you going to put up a fight? And the individual was like, well, I'd like to say yes, but if my family's behind me, then, or in the house, then do I really want to subject them to that? Change your mindset. When the SS showed up at a Jewish farm, the farmer had an option: put up a fight and risk his family, or not. And what happened when they didn't? If you fight, you've got a chance. You've got a chance. It might be a slim chance, but you've got a chance, especially if you've prepared ahead of time. And we're preppers, damn it. We prepare for shit like that. All right. Prepare for a standoff. Have a way out, a secondary way out of your location in the event of a standoff. But if 4 or 5 guys, 2 guys with guns, whatever, show up at your property and they're like, well, we're taking your property, we're going to have to relocate you. How well did that relocation work out for the Jews and their kids? I mean, yeah, you can say, well, I don't want to subject my family to that. No, you'll subject them to them being, taken off to a shower or strapped to a gurney somewhere with Dr. Mengele, doing shit to them later on. Yeah. So do what you got to do. That shit annoys me when people say, well, I don't know if I want it. Well, one way or another, because, even if they say, 15-minute cities, people are talking about, 15-minute cities. You take this Restrict Act, all right, which John was talking about this morning, which is an I Love Big Brother act going into place. Give them the authority to come and get you if you are deemed, if what you say is deemed a threat to the state. I mean, think about it. If you're in a time of war, you can't say anything that lends aid or comfort to the enemy. If we were actually at declared war with Russia, and I came onto this platform and said, oh, well, I think, the U.S. government is wrong, and the Russian forces should be doing this and this, and, and started talking pro-Russia, that act would give them the legal authority to come and take me away. All right. 15-minute cities coupled with this act, or even alone, they're just FEMA camps. Everybody's talking about FEMA camps. We have been for decades in this community talk about FEMA camps, but no one is saying, well, a 15-minute city is just a fucking FEMA camp. It's what it is. You're in an area, a camp. You have a place to sleep. There's a place to get your groceries or your food. There's places to shower. There's places to communalize. But you're stuck there. And you have guards. Just because the guards are, for the most part, digital, and the only real security guys with guns type of guards are around the perimeter and maybe walk through once in a while, it's still a FEMA camp. A 15-minute city is a FEMA camp. They just changed the name so that you'll want to go. Huh? Outlaw Farm says, fastest way to meet God is to try and come to my property uninvited. There you go. Until you're willing, you can't meet your enemy with lesser force. You will never win by meeting your enemy with lesser force. Men with guns are stopped by men with guns. All right. Forget about our judicial system. It's a wreck. It's corrupt. It's rotten to its core. You're going to go along with 4 guys with guns to be put into a cage to be judged by someone who sent them in the first place? Well, the one who sent them is just as or more corrupt than they are. If they show up knowing they're doing the wrong thing, they're your enemy. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about here? I got pages after pages here of stuff. Some people were talking about and always want to know about vetting. How do you vet for a mag? Let's get into that real quick. And then I'll jump into the chat a little bit here. Vetting. This is my opinion. All right. Vetting for your mag. The number one thing will be your core values. All right. Know your core values. Have a list in the Navy, because I was in the Army and the Navy. It was honor, courage, and commitment. And define what those mean to you specifically. And make sure that anyone coming in, ask them, what's your core values? What religion are they? And some people are like, well, that doesn't. Yes, it does, because most of our core values stem from our religious beliefs. Whether you're a Christian, a Jew, or a Muslim, which are the 3 Abrahamic religions, or something else. Pick one of the hundreds and thousands of other religions that are outside of the 3 Abrahamic ones. If you and the current members of your group are strongly of an Abrahamic faith, I mean, you can be, in our group, we have, Christians, we have Muslim, but they're so close. But if you took a Hindu and threw them into the group, now you've got somebody who's worshiping gold statues, and those beliefs are going to cause problems in the long run, maybe in the short term. What is their religion? Should it be mixed with politics? And if no, why? And if yes, why? Ask them these questions. Should religion and politics mix? Our country was originally founded on politics based off religion. Do you believe in abortion? This will let you know where their core values are set, how strongly they believe in saving life. All right. Because I'm of the opinion that if you believe in abortion, you are the type that would leave me in a firefight to save your skin, because you don't give a shit. Death penalty. How do you feel about the death penalty? Frankly, there are a lot of human beings walking this earth today that deserve to die. It's just my opinion. Taxes. How do you think, what is your view on taxes? How much is enough? How much of somebody else's money should you get, and what services should a government provide for those taxes? Responsibility. Whose responsibility is it, in your opinion? These are questions you're asking to provide you with food, with housing, with security. And basically, if the person you're asking has any answer other than it's my responsibility to provide me with food, it's my responsibility to provide me with housing, it's my responsibility to keep myself and my family secure. If they have any answer other than that, no, send them packing. Does violence, ask them this, does violence solve problems? And if they say no, their head's not in the right spot. They don't live in reality. It's why cops carry guns, because violence gets shit done. How do they feel about the Second Amendment? Gun ownership. These are questions you need to be asking for vetting process. Dome Seeker says, nothing more precious than a child born or unborn. Yes, ma'am, we agree. So those are just a few questions that you can ask to vet people. And as I've said before, a great place for meeting people for a mag, if you will, is or militia, whatever, is Facebook. Like it or not, it has become an echo chamber because people that don't like you, don't think like you post something pro-life, most of the time, the ones who are strongly against that will block you or delete you or unfriend you. So an echo chamber has its benefit in that you are consolidating like-minded folks. How would, post-SHTF, if the grid goes down, if society collapses, whatever, what you will see. First, mags. Mags will pop up. Those will become tribes. And eventually, those tribes will become villages, then towns, and then cities. That is natural development of societies. And they are typically founded on cultural beliefs, as we've said before. Start out with rules in the beginning as individuals before you become mags, and those rules progress along with society into laws. And so you need to make sure that the core values at the beginning are strong, or else by the time you get to if they're corrupted, by the time you get to the bottom, you'll have what we have today: corrupt laws, rules for thee and not for me, shit like that. Conflict post-SHTF. Expansion equals conflict. For your mag to become a tribe and your tribe to become a village, you will require expansion. It's the history of man. We move places and we take over places. Most of the time, other people are already living in these places. We have to be flagged. I can't approve anything. Well, I'm sure we are. I'm sure they're watching this stuff. They don't like this. Let me hop in here real quick into the chat and see what's going on. Let's see. Was there something that maybe I can approve? I don't see anything. See, I'm not seeing anything that hasn't been, that has been blocked. They're not showing me anything. Dome Seeker. Let's hop in here, Robert. Yes, Pilgrim Beaverine. POTB's War Game Wednesdays are pretty cool. I like those. Yeah, he does a pretty good job of brainstorming things. But some of the things I disagree with on there, and that's why they're good, is because on his War Game Wednesdays, they're having multiple discussions. They have multiple ideas, and maybe some people that are throwing out off the wall things sit back later and go, you know what? This person had a valid point, or that person had a valid point. Because a lot of people are like, I heard somebody the other night saying, well, there won't necessarily be all this conflict, post SHTF. Oh, really? There's fucking border disputes right now going on in Ukraine and Russia. All right. Border disputes, territorial expansion is what humans do. And to think otherwise is very, very naive. All right. To think that it won't happen post SHTF. Conscription. All right. Soldiers have been conscripted since the history of ever. All right. Taking property that doesn't belong to you. The U.S. government in Iraq handed out IOUs. Oh, hey, we need your truck. Here's an IOU. Take it to this base. You'll be compensated for this truck. We're taking a truck. Oh, we need, these 20, 55-gallon drums. We're taking them. Here's an IOU. And you know what the people said? Okay. Because those with the guns make the rules. Hello. I heard Just Josh was like a few weeks back. I think was on the War Game Wednesday. It was either that or on maybe native stream. But Just Josh was like, if I see, in the beginning, I see somebody coming with a truck, full of food and supplies, I'm sorry, even if they're good people, they're, I'm going to need their stuff, and stuff like that will happen. And I'm not holding that against them. I mean, because there's shit like that will happen. All right. You can become a part of our group, merge your stuff or not, but your stuff is going to stay with the group. Here's something I want y'all to jot down, especially you preppers out there. Within average, about 200 miles of your location right now is a Walmart distribution center. You see, my group, one of our plans, because there's one 20 miles away. At Walmart DCs, which a lot of times they're in the middle of nowhere, they have rows and rows and rows of trailers, semi-truck trailers, filled every day. And I'm talking 50, 100 trailers in a row, filled every day with non-perishable goods. Yeah, canned beans, soups, noodles, if it's non-perishable in a grocery store, there's rows of it at a Walmart food distribution center. On the other side of the DC, DC distribution center, there are rows and rows of trailers with refrigeration units on it. That is all cold food that needs stored. Well, the grid goes down for 3 or 4 days. The EMP happens. You better damn well believe that me and a bunch of the guys I know are going to be rolling with tractors to hook and pull as many of those non-perishable trailers as possible and return it to a centralized location so that we have enough, because by doing so, we will have enough food, non-perishable food that will last for years, to where we can provide food for all the refugees that we now need to build an army. All right. See that? Because we control the food. Control the food, you control the people. Yeah. If I keep your family safe and your kids safe and keep them fed, you will fight for me. Because what's the alternative? But these things are crossing. Yes, Pilgrim Beaverine. These centers are across the country. They're across the country. So there's one somewhere near you. All right. Don't see it. You've got 2 nearby. Oh, you got 2 tractors. I'm talking like semi-tractors. When I say tractors, I'm not talking about the tractor, like the farm tractor, semi-tractor. The tractor pulls the trailer, tractor trailer. 18-wheel prepper knows that. Yeah, I mean, anything that can, fifth wheel has to have a fifth wheel on it to pull those trailers. And you have to be able to supply air to the trailer to release the brakes. But when you've got, 5 or 6 guys rolling in semi-tractors to go pull these trailers, hell, you pull 10 trailers in 2 hours. I mean, that's a lot of food. That's a lot of food. I love farms can drive anything. There you go. But yeah, that's just one of the things. Back to mags real quick. An expansion. War is a game of resources. All right. We all know this. You've got something that I need, or more of it, and I need it. If I can take it, I'm going to take it. That's what war is in its essence. And it's never going to stop until Judgment Day. Okay. And there's going to be a big one right before Judgment Day, apparently. So I've read. Law enforcement. How are you going to establish law enforcement post-SHTF? Some people, they were talking about this on War Game Wednesdays last night. And if you don't know what War Game Wednesdays are, look up Prepping Outside the Box, POTB, and go watch the shows. But they were talking about the justice system. How will you set it up? Simple jury, judge, a tribunal. How will you deal with criminals post SHTF? First in your mag, then your village, your tribe, your village, and your town as you build and expand. And a lot of people, realistically, will have to go back to old school measures. All right. Back in the day, yes, in Rome, they had prisons and jails, but they also had this shit called slavery. Yeah. So in this country, a lot of times people think slavery, they think of American Civil War, pre-Civil War slavery, black people. No, they had slavery. Didn't matter what color you were in Rome, you could be a slave. Didn't matter what nationality you were, you could be a slave. The same thing will occur again post-SHTF. because realistically, you're not going to build a prison. You're not going to build a prison camp and put, oh, well, this person, he killed so-and-so, accidentally. It was manslaughter. So we're going to put them in this prison camp right here for the next 2 to 4 years. No, you're going to put them on a work camp. All right. Essentially slavery, just like chain gangs. All right. And you're going to use these people in your society, the ones that don't qualify entirely for the death penalty, you enslave them. That way you still have people out there, providing for, harvesting crops, sowing crops, getting water, doing the sanitation, all the shit jobs, the hard jobs. That's what you use these people for. Message deleted. What is that? Oh. Deleted by Dome Seeker. Okay, well, I don't know what it said, but I trust your judgment, Dome Seeker. Like I said, you'll have these liberals come in here. Outlaw Farm says, I would gladly join up with you, Uncle Rob, and bring what I can if it comes to that. Everybody with good moral values is welcome. And by moral values, I mean based off of Abrahamic religions. All right. Anybody else? I mean, if you come into the territory after SHTF, it's just like visiting a foreign nation. You need to pay attention to what laws they have. You need to be aware of what laws are there and in place, because ignorance of the law is not an excuse to break the law. So therefore, you might want to either avoid the area or toe the line. Malaysia. I'll tell you a story real quick. I was flying into Malaysia commercially one time and just hopping through. And as we began our descent, anyone who's been on an airplane will know that a pilot comes across. And if you haven't been on an airplane, here's something you're going to learn. The pilot gets on there and he'll tell you what the weather conditions are, tell you about the humidity, tell you the beginning of your descent, blah, blah, blah. I was flying into Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and the pilot came across and it caught me off guard, because the pilot was like, we are beginning our descent into beautiful Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The ground temperature is 87 degrees, humidity is 84%, and anyone caught with any amount of illegal narcotics will be put to death. Enjoy your stay in beautiful Malaysia. And I was, did he just say, yes? Yes, he said, and anyone caught with any amount of illegal narcotics will be put to death. Blew my mind. First time I'd ever heard that on an airplane. But yeah, Pilgrim, I was like looking around to see if anybody was headed to the blue rooms to flush a stash or something, because it was just the most epic thing I'd ever heard a pilot say. The Paradise Acres, the women in this group family are a force to be reckoned with. Awesome. The 10 Commandments are the best laws to adhere to. Yes. And that's why I said you can just look at the religious texts, the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, and the laws are all basically the same. In fact, some just compound on others, go into detail. But those books tell you, the Abrahamic religions tell you how you're supposed to be living your life and how you're supposed to be treating people. And now I know there are modern day people who are like, well, it says that you should do this. Well, there are some things that it says in the Bible, the Quran and the Torah, those three Abrahamic religions that are trying to make one, that some people think is some conspiracy thing. I don't know. But anyway, if you look at the things that we don't follow, even though they might seem harsh, if you look at the things that we don't follow that those books say to do, because they're just too medieval, too old school way of thinking, and ask yourself, is society better today because we don't do that? Or how would society be today if we still did do that? most of the time, I'd like to think that a logical, not thinking with emotion, a logical, rational person will say, well, yeah, they'd probably be better. Society as a whole would probably be better. A lot of people don't want to admit that shit. A lot of people just don't. Let me jump in the chat real quick, see if there's anything for me. Is there any questions about anything I missed? If you have a question or you asked a question and I didn't see it, go ahead and throw it back up there right now. I'll look for the next few seconds and check on that. Back to the militias and the land acquisition or acquisition of different shit. Okay, let me see real quick. Warlord, not to be a troll, but I am a heathen. During SHTF, I would come across you seeking shelter. You wouldn't take me based on religion. No. If you're a heathen and you come across and you're seeking shelter, as long as you're not bringing illegal drugs into my country, you're cool. All right. If you are a heathen and you need to come in, and hey, I'm hungry, that's fine. Keep your beliefs to you. Don't go through our society trying to undermine our core values. All right. You can believe whatever you want until it starts to negatively impact our society. So yeah, by all means, you can, who was that? Let me go back up. Let me go, shit, I'm clicking shit on the computer. Oh, I did something. But yeah, where's it at? Faith of, I don't want to pronounce that wrong. Sithis, father of Sithis. Yeah, you can, and I just completely minimized my screen. I'm like this big on my thing, but no, you food, shelter, clothing, we would help you out, but you have to understand what our core values are and just don't try to undermine them. Don't come in, well, you guys are, your Christianity or your Abraham or any of these people. Don't bash our shit. Don't, just like Saudi Arabia, you can't go preaching, standing on a corner saying, oh, hey, you should, worship this statue or this idol. Yeah, that won't go well. But if you you come and say, hey, I'm not of the same faith as you, but I need help, we will help you. That's not a problem there. And I wish I could figure out how to make this thing bigger again. That's what she said. What is that? I don't want to push that, because if I push that, let's close that out. I hope I don't end my live stream. I'm not gonna mess with that. We'll figure it out later. But yeah, I hope that helps clarify things for you there. Let me get back down here to them. Let's see what else. If we are supposed to be as godly as possible, well, God didn't have a problem cutting off the fat per se. That is true, Papa's Farm. All right, Michael G., you have a good one. God bless you too. Yes, God has no problem culling the herd. I mean, biblically, if you look at it, war, the Bible, the Quran, the Torah are all full of examples of war. Outlaw farms. What about other warlords? Well, if there are other warlords and they have opposing core values, it's going to be war. I mean, that's the problem we have in our society today. That is why our society is crumbling, because we've tried to coexist. If someone of opposing values is in your society, they either live by your rules or they leave. And if you're expanding, which will happen during post-SHTF, it will be conquer or be conquered. Yes, other warlords there. If you look at Afghanistan today, there are many warlords in Afghanistan. What the hell was his name? I met the guy. He used to be the president of Afghanistan. God, my mind's drawing a blank. It's been a long time since I've been over there. But he started out as a warlord. He had like 300 guys underneath him. And then who was the former president of Afghanistan, if anybody can? Karzai. Karzai was a small tribal warlord before the American invasion. He had a few hundred guys. He ended up becoming the president of Afghanistan because he backed the right horse for the short period of time that he was president. We catapulted him up there. Set and respect boundaries. Otherwise, it's wartime. Yes. This is our area. This is the way it is. But if you go to Afghanistan today, there's, people think Taliban, and they're like, it's like one ring to rule them all. There are other rings. All right. So you'll have a warlord here, a warlord here, a warlord here, a warlord here, and they all agree that this warlord or this council of warlords will govern and keep the peace amongst everybody. And periodically, from time to time, you'll have these people fighting these people. But then when an external threat like the Russians or us come in, they like, you know what? Yes, we've been feuding for 20 years, 50 years, but right now we have a common enemy, and that's what we focus on. Karzai, yes, AZ infidel. Which infidel, here's a funny thing about that word, is infidel is a non-believer in an Abrahamic religion. And I see so many Christians that wear, American infidel shirt. And it's like, but, and I'll see him I would see him at church, like on military bases, American infidel. And it's like, no, you're not. Because most people don't understand what the word means. An infidel is a non-believer, and typically based off of where the word originated was a non-believer of a Abrahamic religion. We're tagging everybody up in here. Dynamite, neighboring warlords, Prepper Nation, backwoods, dynamite. Yeah, all neighboring warlords. And that's the thing, it's not, a lot of people think of, warlords are thinking of, a bone in their nose, Genghis Khan type shit, but it's no different than today. All right. Governor DeSantis. A lot of people like Governor DeSantis. I've had my talks with Chewbacca about that last year. He's got, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. A lot of people aren't going to want to hear that. But, if you look at a rags to riches elite type story, go watch the movie The Skulls. Just going to say that. But Governor DeSantis is a warlord. He's the Florida warlord. All right. He's got a National Guard. He's got an army at his disposal. He's got mayors that run different cities underneath of his warlordship, his warlordism. Governors are basically warlords. It's the same thing with different names. Over here, we call them governors. In Afghanistan, they call them warlords, or tribal chieftains. How big a Prepper Nation? Awesome question. Prepper Nation, where's it at? Right here. I want you to, when you get a chance, and you might already know this because you're a history buff, Prepper. The bonus rally. All right. The bonus rally happened in Washington, D.C. post World War I. All right. Before World War II, the bonus rally. And that will tell you how big the National Guard will be a threat, or the Army in general. That is the bonus rally. For anybody who doesn't know, General Patton, long before he was a general, I think he was a lieutenant, but do not quote me on that. Lieutenant Patton led troops against veterans, thousands and thousands of veterans that were protesting in D.C., led the army against them and burned them out. All right. Burned down their tents, beat the ever-living shit out of them. Yes. That's what General Patton or Lieutenant Patton did. Because the government was screwing over the vets. As far as National Guard itself as a separate unit from the Army, National Guard is as long as the grid is still up, the National Guard in a post-economic collapse, something like that, would still probably be viable. In a post-EMP event, where you have every man for themselves and communication is down, they're just going to fall apart for most part, because you've got people that live hours and hours and hours away in a state that commute to their National Guard units. And in the event of an EMP or societal collapse, you think that captain or that staff sergeant or master sergeant is going to commute hours away from their home and their loved ones to go see if somebody's there? It's just going to fall the fuck apart. Regular Army on big Army bases, that post-SHTF will be more than likely to hold together, because the government has continuity of government. All right. It is a plan for them to continue government post everything. All right. You name a war game scenario, they've thought it, they've war gamed it out, and they need to keep the government together. So they're centralized. They'll still have communications with each other, some way, shape, or form, even if it's just even if it's just that shit. They will still be, and there will still be people that are like, no, soldiers trying to leave. Oh, you're not leaving fucking anywhere. You're not leaving base. You're on base. You're on base. When 9/11 happened, guess who got? I was on base. Guess what? Guess who got to leave? Nobody. Nobody. The gates came down. The barricades went up. You didn't come or go for like a while, and then they started. Okay, well, we need these people in. We need these people out. We got to, and they started figuring shit out. But it was tightly controlled, real fast. Don't live east of the Mississippi, too many people. And it depends. Here in Appalachia, between where I'm at and Dome Seeker and Chewbacca, and John down there, he's down in starting to get down to those little low-level areas. But there's not a lot of people, not a lot of population density here. Do you think the Army will follow orders or follow the Constitution? I want to slow that one down. I want to go back up and see who that was. Appalachian Mercantile. I love that name. Appalachian Mercantile. They will do what they're told. All right. Think of this. We have proof, okay, because law enforcement in this country over the past few years, especially in 2020, violated the Constitution because they were told to violate the Constitution. And now people are coming out with lawsuits and go, well, this was unconstitutional, and that was unconstitutional, and shutting down that business was They still did it. I'm telling you, I've heard first sergeants, senior individuals tell juniors that they don't think that civilians should own firearms, that people shouldn't complain. I've heard commanders say that civilians shouldn't complain about drones over civilian cities. A couple of years ago, remember that was big talk? I heard people, senior members of the military, talking about it shouldn't be a big deal because if you don't have anything to hide, then what's the problem? It violates the Constitution. That's the problem. Well, it doesn't matter. Because, as I've said before, and if you're new to this channel, you might not have heard it, so I'll say it again. There has been a steady purge over the past couple decades, last 2 decades, it's 20 years, of pushing conservative thinking out of the higher ranks and pushing more progressive, liberal-minded individuals into those positions. So, will the military follow the Constitution? They'll follow the orders, because that's what soldiers do. They just follow orders. Now, we are taught through PowerPoint presentations, and I've sat through many of them, that you don't follow unlawful orders. But you'd be amazed at how often people in the military will absolutely follow unlawful orders. It happens. Okay, well, survival, how you doing? Especially the woke soldiers. Oh, absolutely. And if you don't think, and people always they're like, oh, well, the woke army is going to fight with dildos. No, the woke army is going to fight with C-130 gunships with up armored MRAPs, because wokeism is a mindset, all right, and they will have absolutely no problem, especially when they, right now you're seeing dehumanization. They are people like you, people like me. They're not people. They're the way they think. We need to just, and that's how Auschwitz got steamrolled. All right. That's how that shit got all put into play. You don't think that they'll round you up, and oh, well, your children think the same way. Now, just throw them in there with them, because they will. So good morning. Good morning. Who's it? Son of the Desert. Good morning. Glad to see you. Ross says, like I was told, you might have to follow orders, but you don't have to do stuff immoral. Yeah, you don't. But a lot of people will. History's full of all kinds of bad shit that the Army has done. Our Army, our Marine Corps, our Navy, our Air Force. All right. That's just recently. It's just like the last 50 years. We've done some heinous shit. And yeah, Hunter Moon, and a lot of them have families too, because, like I said, well, you guys were talking about that, the colony, the guy was, he's trying to make it easier because his family, so he's collaborating, going along. That's one of the big things that motivates a collaborator is, well, I got a wife and kids, I don't want to put them at risk. They're already at risk, but yeah, you'll have a lot of that. From Not So Great Britain, first time in live chat. Maria Fraser, glad to see you. Thank you for being here from across the pond. I want to come visit there sometime. I've only flown through. I've Gatwick, Heathrow, places like that. I've flown through, and every time it's just gray and rainy. A small example of how small the world is. I was once in Heathrow, and there's a smoking section, or was, I don't know about anymore, been years, in the middle of the airport. And when I was in there lighting a cigarette, someone from Chicago who knew me was in there. And they weren't even in the military. They were just passing through. So the world's smaller than you think. But hello, thank you for being here from across the pond. Real quick, let's talk about what else we got to talk about. You know what? I think I've almost covered everything. Oh, and mag types. Hop back onto those mags and land and stuff like that. Land acquisition, post-SHTF. Well, if the government doesn't exist anymore, national parks, if you got the power to take them, take them. If you can hold them, hold them. They're yours. A lot of national parks are great for, agriculture. All right. Corporate owned land. Well, Walmart doesn't exist anymore. No, they don't need that building. All right. The society collapses. Abandoned shit. Take it. Mag types. Democratic Council or military. Basically a military junta, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Those are going to be the two most successful types. And by democratic, I mean like representative council. All right. You all kind of vote. But at the end of the day, one person has to be in charge, because you can't have, 50-50, or we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. Somebody has to be the tiebreaker, just like our government kind of sort of, and say, well, I'm going to go outside with these guys. We're going to do it and get it done. But once that one person makes that decision, you back it. That's the play. You back the play. Let's see. Grammar in the military, it's follow orders that are bad and get screwed, or don't and get screwed. Yeah. And I remember pushing an Iraqi guy to the side as I stepped into the house. And I mean, because the mindset, your mindset, once the war switch is turned on and you're on, you'd be amazed how your mind works. Because I remember saying, this is my house. This is my house. And I replied reflexively, not while I'm standing in it. Now, that is a totally dick thing to say, you know, and looking back, I was like, that's fucked up. I actually said that shit, you know, and as guys were coming in the door behind me, you know, not while I'm in it. That is the mindset of the U.S. military. Once if we ever face them here on our own soil, that's the mindset you have to be, because that's what they program into you. Take control, take control, take control of the situation. So yeah, U.S. soldier shows up at your door and you go, this is my house. Do not be surprised when they throw an arm against you and push you against the bulkhead and say, not while I'm standing in it, it's not your house. So yeah, be ready to shed lead. All right. One thing I just want to, that's about it. We're going to wrap this up because I've already been on here an hour and 28 minutes. Yep, abandoned property is up for grabs in SHTF. And I'll hop in the chat here in a second if y'all have any questions or want to just talk about anything else. But the one last thing I wanted to talk about, which I can't believe it's taken me almost 50 years to realize, all this global warming stuff, the polar ice caps are going to melt. If any of y'all didn't catch a little thing, if you follow me on Facebook, then cool, you've already seen it. But global warming, the polar ice caps, if they melt, it's going to flood the coasts. I've watched so many movies about that. I mean, there's all kinds of movies about stuff like that. And it just dawned on me a couple of weeks ago. I was just sitting there and, you know, had my drink with my ice and my Pepsi in it. And I'm looking at it and the ice is sticking up out of the Pepsi. And I was like, well, 10% or 90% of ice is underwater, like an iceberg, you know, the ice caps, 90% of it's underwater, about 90 to 92, 8 to 10% is up on top, sticking out of the water, because water expands when it turns into ice. It expands, it takes up that space. So if it's melting and it melts, it's reducing its size. So basically what I'm saying is, if the polar ice caps melt, sea level is just going to stay the same because you're taking up the same amount of volume. It doesn't make any sense. Try it. Take a cup, take a bowl, fill it full of ice, fill it to the brim with water, and sit there and let it melt. Guess what's going to happen? It's not going to spill over the side. Yeah, I know, Chewbacca. I told you this 2 weeks ago, but I wanted to make sure everybody else heard it, because I was like, how did it take me almost 50 years to realize that they're full of shit? Because volume doesn't work that way. All right. Well, everybody, let's see. Let me see. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Hold on. I saw some capitals up there. Let's see. Oh, Patricia Hobbs. Hey, how you doing? If you have time, Rob, mental preparation is being discussed a lot lately. Some aren't going to make it. I'm studying that aspect. Any tips for help mentally prepping? Honestly, it depends on what you want to mentally prep for. If you want to mentally prep for combat, for pulling the trigger, for, you know, pointing a pointy object at a person and squeezing the trigger and not hesitating, honestly, Call of Duty. And I know some people are like, what? He just said Call of Duty? Yes, the military uses video games to simulate us shooting people, all right? Because it does desensitize you and creates a reflex action. So if you spend time virtually shooting people, when it comes time for the real, you're less likely to hesitate. It's a fact. So if that is what it is, then there's that. But mentally prepping, find things that you think you're going to struggle with, you're going to have problems with, boredom, and prep ways to deal with that. But war is 99% boredom and 1% holy fuck. All right. I mean, that's the best way to explain it. I don't know if somebody has a better way to explain it, but 99% staring out a perimeter at a wire, staring, looking at your range card, making a new range card, looking out, watching the perimeter. 99% boring as fuck, and then 1% holy shit, what's going on? So make a plan. Think now, prep, like you said, prep now. Where you think you're going to have difficulties mentally dealing with certain things, and figure out workarounds now. All right. Chewbacca, sensitive topic maybe right now, but it needs to be said because I'm thinking about it and I'll forget. Disposal and cleanup of after a firefight, all right, or after any type of death. Okay, you need to plan for that now. Have the stuff you need now, because you're not just going to take just a broom and sweep up a mess. You know, bodily fluids, blood, things like that need dealt with. They are biohazards. So one thing you need to be prepping is how will you, if grandma or great grandma just dies post SHTF because she's old, and what are you going to do with it? How are you going to handle her? How are you going to move her body? If someone gets crushed and run through and there's blood and guts everywhere, how are you going to clean that shit up? All right, you're not just going to leave it lay there for the animals to scavenge on. Think of that now. Let's see. They say things enough that people start to believe stupid crap. Okay, let's see. Plymouth Rock is still at the same sea level as it was when they landed. Yes, Jerry Howard. Yes, exactly. What was I say? What I missed something about what if ice melts something. But anyway. Eating lunch and taking the L over there. All right, Prepper Nation. Yeah, I'm going to have to go eat some lunch here soon, too. Keep that cleanup away from the water source. Yes, you don't want to contaminate. Cross-contamination. Contamination and cross-contamination. You don't want to have either of those. If you don't know what those are, Google them. Figure it out. Sawdust to soak up blood. Burn it. Yes, exactly. There's all kinds of ways. But, you need to, again, if there's a possibility, especially if it's a member, somebody not in your group, and there was a firefighters, intruders, whatever, you splattered them with a shotgun. What kind of biological pathogens do they have? Goggles. You don't want the shit getting you. You don't want to be moving old fucking, this half a Larry while your partner's pulling up that half a Larry because you cut him in half with a shotgun, and something splatter in your eye. Next thing you know, you got some weird heebie-jeebie shit going on. Gloves, the paper suits with the hoods on them, booties, N95 masks, so you're not inhaling who knows what, shit like that. Chewbacca said, thought John said he was taking his liver. Missed the space in there. I was about to ask what his name. You stop picking on John. Tyvek suits. Yeah. Sometimes the names of shit, simple shit, just leaves. All right. I think that's about it. Later on, I'm going to do a video about, because one of you asked, and pardon me, but I can't remember who it was, but they asked about loadouts for patrols, like backpacks, or what you would take with you on a patrol. So I'm going to break it down to a 12, 24, and a 36-hour loadout. Because anything other than that, then you're just bugging the fuck out. But anyway. No, Chewbacca did not send me that, but he might have. I haven't. I put in like 60 hours of work. Yeah, 60 hours of work in 71 hours. So the last few days have been like a blur, and I was so tired last night when I got in. I literally laid down, and Angel was like, I tried to talk to you. You was gone. Yeah, I was gone. The active shooter is at Forsyth Tech in North Carolina. Oh, another one. Well, the only way to deal with them is to have guns in our schools in conservative hands. Conservative. Why do I specify that? Because there are too many liberal whack jobs that have infiltrated our educational system. God bless everyone. I'm going to keep it frosty. Somebody watches Black Scout. All right. 2 suspects at large. Well, need to gun them down. Heads on pikes. That's what we like. Heads on pikes. Make a fucking example. All right. Hey, y'all have a good day. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Good night, or good night. It's daytime. Good day. Have a good day. God bless. And to my baby sharks, daddy loves you. And I'll see you very soon. I'm out of here.